CP Pittsburgh. Hello there, and welcome back to coverage here at Grand Prix Pittsburgh. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Paul Cheon. And we've got Ian Flynn versus Matt Long. And I got to tell you, Paul, we got a kind of a spicy brew here. We've got mono black vampires in the feature match area, including Indulgent Aristocrat. Now, it's playing Metallic Mimic, which is a really good card for a tribal deck, as you might imagine. And then it's also got Zulaport Cutthroat. Remember that guy?
I do.
He was so annoying, and I'm like, that card's still legal? Okay, cool. Not actually a vampire, by the way, that one.
So just a value 2 drop?
Well, and a way to push through damage in case your opponent has stabilized the board. And then it's also got Kalatas Yahenni, turns out also a vampire. Gifted Aetherborn, also a vampire. And then a card that I think a lot of people were hoping would be good at some point, Drana, Liberator of Malakir. Card that just really hasn't ever found its home.
Yeah, it's the thing with Drana is you look at the card and it's clearly been pushed, right? Like
yes.
You look at the card, you're like, okay, well, maybe there's an aggressive black deck. And it just never kind of came together. And
until today?
Until today, you never know.
Matt Long's on a much more traditional deck that we're used to seeing, Mardu Vehicles. Both players sitting at 3-0. Ian has played Metallic Mimic, and I will bet you lunch that he named Vampire with his Metallic Mimic here. And let's see what he can do. Metallic Mimic, card that hasn't seen a lot of play yet, but you can see the potential here. If he can play like a 2-drop and a 1-drop, all of a sudden his board looks pretty powerful.
Yeah, it gets in a lot of work. There was a red-white humans deck that we were actually testing for the Pro Tour, which did have 4 copies of this card. And we were pretty close to kind of... We actually had a fairly tuned version of the deck, but we were a little too afraid of the card walking ballista.
That's pretty cool. You can see that the Gifted Aetherborn that Ian Flynn just played, it has a signature on it. That's Ryan Yee, the artist. He's here in Pittsburgh with us. He's got a booth set up outside. Of course, if you do manage to come out and join us for a Grand Prix when it comes to an area near you, there's almost always, they call it Artist Alley or something like that, where there'll be 4 or 5, maybe even 6 artists of some of your favorite Magic cards there, selling prints and willing to sign your cards for them and stuff. So if you're into that side of the game, it's pretty cool. And it looks like Ian Flynn took a little time while he was, after having smashed some opponents, to go get his Gifted Aetherborn signed by Ryan.
I think the artist might have blessed the cards a little bit. He's currently 3-0, doing a good job.
Yeah, also it has a +1/+1 counter just because of that artist signature. So excellent stuff.
This actually happened to me at the Limited Grand Prix.
What
Except
did?
turn 2 Metallic Mimic, turn 3 Gifted Aetherborn.
But it was in Limited.
But he named Aetherborn.
That's funny. All right. Well, Pianalar hits the battlefield. Heart of Kirin, though, is going to stick back on blocks, it looks like.
Yeah.
And Ian Flynn is going to have to decide how he wants to go. This has not been an explosive start for him, but it's been solid. Yeah, 2-drop into 2-drop is fine.
I don't think the deck's meant to be overly explosive. I believe Ian did have a Fatal Push in hand. So because Matt chose to not attack with the Heart of Kirin, it seems like he's kind of telegraphing a block here. Yeah. And if that's the case, then Ian's going to have a pretty good turn here with the Fatal Push.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying for Matt. If he had another Heart of Kirin in hand, he'd probably be pretty happy to just throw this thing away. Yeah. But as it stands, his blocks are very, very awkward. He can either activate the Heart of Kirin and risk getting it Fatal Pushed, or he can chump.
Yeah, the problem is this is just a losing situation, right? Because Ian is just gaining 3 life every single turn. Matt has to find a way to deal with the Gifted Aetherborn. Also, the fact that Matt did not cast a Pianalar there instead of something like an Unlicensed Disintegration should kind of tip to Ian that he doesn't have a removal spell for that card.
That's right. And now Ian's got an interesting choice of his own. He's got a couple of removal spells in hand, but can he develop his board? He can. It's a Zulaport Cutthroat.
Non-vampire, unfortunately.
Ian. Yes.
It gives him reach. I think that's why it's in there.
Yeah.
You can sacrifice creatures at will with the Indulgent Aristocrat, which would then allow you to trigger the Cutthroat and get in for the last few points.
Yeah, take a look at the Cutthroat here for those of you that forgot about him. He hasn't been around in a little while. But yeah, whenever he dies or another creature you control dies. That's why Ian was okay with playing it post-combat. He knew how that sequence was going to go. He was not going to lose his Gifted Aetherborn in that transaction either way, so he could just play it post-combat. And this is where things get really awkward for Matt Long. He's attacking.
He doesn't have a removal
He cannot win this race, yet he's forced to just start attacking.
Exactly. He just doesn't have a good block here. So Ian is pretty massively ahead here, unless Matt can find a removal spell for the Gifted Aetherborn in the top 2 cards. Every time that Aetherborn gets in, that's effectively a 6-point life swing. Just so hard to race that.
Yeah, against an aggressive deck, it's so brutal. And Matt Long looks like he's flooding a bit here as well.
Yeah, I see a Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Yeah, that's the only other spell.
Not really the best on defense.
Yeah, he's just got a couple of lands in hand. And you can see from that little head shake at the end there that he's not happy with how this is going either.
Yeah.
Still no blocks for him that make any real sense.
Right. This does feel like one of those situations where Matt likely would have wanted to just keep another creature back and just... The thing is, he's so far behind, I feel like you just need to leave another creature back and just go for the double block on Aetherborn and just hope he doesn't have removal.
Block with the Motorist and one of his other creatures. And just say,
likely a Thopter.
Yeah. Yeah, and you'll see that from the really... Well, this is an interesting play, actually, from Ian. Yeah, is that he's actually just trying to push through absolute maximum damage by not even letting Matt trade off for, say, the Metallic Mimic or even the Zulaport Cutthroat here. He's being very assertive with that Fatal Push and then following it up with the Scrap Heap Scrounger of his own.
Okay, this is a great start for Ian, and I think he was able to also just fire off that Fatal Push because it looks like he also has a Grasp of Darkness in his hand. Did Matt find an unlicensed Disintegration?
Perhaps another Heart of Kirin is what he drew for the turn. He's going to have to start blocking at some point.
Right.
And I can totally understand Matt's thought process. It is no fun to throw a bunch of blocks in front of an opponent that has 3 mana and they're playing mono black. That goes wrong so many different ways for you.
Also just having to tell your friends, yeah, I lost a mono black deck, and it wasn't close. That's
yeah, well, that might be the
times.
case here. He's down to 9. Land number 4 off the top for Ian Flynn. He still has more removal in his hand, by the way. Another Grasp of Darkness.
He has a Grasp of Darkness and a Kalitas.
Jeez. Now this gets interesting because, you know, he could cast Kalitas first, or he can just jam and keep up the removal spell. Really, Matt having not attacked here is kind of saying what he wants to do, but it looks like Ian's going to go for Kalitas pre-combat here. And I'm assuming start attacking as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows that any trades that happen, which, remember, the best case for Matt is to double block. So he's going to get a bunch of zombies.
So playing the Kalitas is nice because you're guaranteed to get that counter. I feel like if you're going to do that before you attack, you're basically committing yourself to like being very aggressive with your attacks. Matt clearly wants to crew the Heart of Kirin here to block, and now Ian doesn't really have a great attack with any of his other creatures. So the only thing he can do now is swing in with the Gifted Aetherborn, hope for a trade with the Heart of Kirin, and then I guess get a zombie. And the question is whether or not that is better or worse than just casting the Grasp of Darkness on the Heart of Kirin and attacking with everything. Or attacking with everything minus the Zulaport Cutthroat.
Right, and that's what Ian had to try to decide for himself.
Right.
And he's decided that he wants to set up for the next turn a little bit better, potentially.
Right.
It worked out beautifully for him. No block from Matt Long, just took it to the dome.
Just free damage.
I mean, I understand where Matt's coming from here. Like, he is in a bad position, but he needs to deal with these creatures. Yeah. And if it's a scenario where he's just taking damage and going down to 6, it's not getting any better. Like,
it is not.
This is going to have to happen at some point. Maybe he's got outs in his deck that we're not considering, that he thinks, okay, well, if I can draw this, then it actually solves this problem. But no, I've seen a fair bit of Mardu vehicles, and I haven't really seen much of that.
All right.
Okay, how about a Gideon off the top? Does that actually help here?
Yeah, I think the card he wanted to draw most was like an Unlicensed Disintegration, but if it wasn't a removal spell, Gideon's going to be okay here. Ian doesn't really have any flyers or anything to kind of pressure the Gideon, so he does have to just kind of use all of his creatures to attack the Gideon. But with Matt being at 6 life, he does have to make the decision. What does he want to go for life total, or does he want to just kill the Gideon on the spot here? Matt choosing to get in for some points of damage here.
I guess it's go down swinging mode for for Matt Long here, because this one has fallen grossly out of favor for him. Oh no, another Zulaport Cutthroat, perhaps the best draw on his deck given his mana scenario. Remember, he still has a Grasp of Darkness in hand too. I don't think that Matt has any way to get out of this at this point. Now Ian's creatures dying is actually good.
Yeah, I would guess that Ian likely just goes for Matt's life total at this point and not the Gideon.
Yeah, and what happened was, of course, Matt was going for the I'm going to block with my Heart of Kirin using the extra ability. That's not going to work either. Grasp of Darkness just snipes it, and Matt's just like, geez, this guy has it all.
A zombie. Okay, so we do get...
he might just be looking for the token, yeah.
Sure.
There we go.
And this just cannot go that poorly for Ian at this point. Either... there's not a lot of great blocks for Matt, and then on the following turn, Ian can start sacking his zombies to drain his opponent for 2.
Yeah.
With the 2 Zulaport Cutthroats in
That's
play.
right, yeah. GG, as we say in the business. I got to say, though, this Mono Black Vampires deck looks pretty good from this game. Now, maybe he had a good draw.
Right.
But it wasn't like 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop or anything. Like,
no,
it was 2 drop, 2 drop, Yeah. But still, the removal spells were fantastic. And that could be part of the reason, it's part of the leverage that he gets here, is that he does get to play Fatal Push and be able to cast it anytime he wants, and he gets to play Grasp of Darkness and cast it anytime he wants. Yeah. That's powerful stuff against these decks. That's 2 different ways to deal with, for example, Heart of Kirin that costs only 1 or 2 mana.
Yeah, he very clearly had Mardu vehicles kind of in mind when he was building his deck. 4 copies of Fatal Push, 4 copies of Grasp, and then just a bunch of life-linking Death Touchers as well. Mm-hmm. This is my favorite thing to do when I play the Copycat control deck, by the way, is copying Torrential Gearhulk and not Felidar Guardian. You just get so much value.
Dear God.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
it's happening.
This is great.
This is honestly how I was sold on playing the deck, by the way. Not the broken Infinite Cat combo. It was copying Torrential Gearhulk.
That's amateur hour.
Oh. And also the combo.
That's game. So we do actually get a chance to see the combo in effect here, and Sigris just says, yep, that last card isn't going to interact with this. And bang, Paul Dean picks up game number 1.
Yeah, Mike Sigris actually played the Jeskai Copycat deck at the Pro Tour, and looks like he opted to play the green-black deck here instead in response to kind of all the expected Mardu vehicle decks at this Grand Prix. I think the reason to possibly play the Copycat deck at this tournament would be to, if you just kind of went the next level where you expect a ton of green-black decks, and then look for the deck that actively beats those decks, which I think the Jeskai Copycat deck does a good job of.
That's the, I was thinking about that. Even, for Ian Flynn, in case he does happen to run into the Jeskai deck, like, the Grasp of Darkness is quite good there too, right?
Yeah. Although I can't imagine Ian being very good against the Jeskai Copycat deck. It doesn't look like his deck is overly aggressive.
Yeah.
He's also playing 4 copies of Fatal Push in the main deck, which are effectively dead removal spells.
Which aren't good, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't put a lot of pressure, and...
Well, now, hold on a second. You said effectively dead, but he does have Indulgent Aristocrats. He has ways to get Revolt going kind of on demand.
He does with the Indulgent Aristocrat. At the same time, Indulgent Aristocrat, not the most aggressive creature, too. So
that's an understatement.
Right. So the thing is, if you're going to play a Jeskai Saheeli deck, I expect a lot of people to kind of be mindful of the fact that Mardu Vehicles is going to be a very popular deck. So I expect a lot of small adjustments to the main deck for anybody playing the Jeskai deck. So cards such as Radiant Flames main deck,
Oh,
or Shocks, things like that.
All right.
So if
this matchup is falling apart
exactly.
quickly. Yeah.
I would be very uncomfortable playing just the stock Jeskai Saheeli deck that we were looking at earlier.
All right. But in this matchup, Ian, his removal is very live. And like you said, you even got the vibe from looking at the list that he may have built this deck partly with vehicles in mind.
Oh, absolutely. He's got a ton of lifelink creatures. He's got very cheap, efficient removal. He's only playing 22 lands, so it's just all action all the time. And it looks like his curve is very low. He tops out at just 2 copies of Kalitas, and then in his sideboard, he actually has a 23rd land because it looks like he's trying to go up to 4 copies.
Okay.
And, he also has a control plan. I don't know when this comes in. I'm assuming it's going to come in this matchup, but he's got 4 copies of Yeheni's Expertise. We haven't really seen a whole lot of that card.
No. Kind of funny. Maria Bartholdi's down on the floor, and she actually had a little chat with Ian, who said, "I didn't feel like playing mirror matches all day, so I made this Vampires homebrew." I like that.
It is great. Right in the modern era of Magic, you just have a lot of people just doing all the testing, and there's just a lot of stock decks, right?
Yes.
And it's always nice to see somebody just kind of come with a homebrew to a Grand Prix and actually do well.
Yeah, I dig this. I think this deck's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't look super good to me. Like, being honest, like just looking at it on paper, there's some, the really great decks, they tend to click on a big picture level where you're like, wow, you get to play a lot of really powerful cards, or they work really well together. And then you see all these smaller combos, these little things that you're like, oh, they can do that if the game goes long, or these 2 cards have a little hidden thing that you didn't see. And this one doesn't have as many of those as you would hope for. Yeah,
this is definitely very straightforward. I think if you want to make a monocolored deck work in Standard, you basically just kind of do a gatherer search, put in black, and then you type in Vampire, and you see what you can play, and then you fill in, you fill in the rest of the cards with whatever you're missing.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and that is what it is.
That is what it is.
But I think, again, this might be a pretty smart choice for this tournament at least, right? You're not expecting a lot of Jeskai Copycat. You're expecting a lot of Mardu vehicles, and Fatal Push is also a very good card against the green-black decks as well. So we'll see how he does.
Yeah, and I think that is the way that I'm viewing this deck at this point is I really like the removal suite. I love the consistency. I love the fact that it's just mono black, so it just plays its cards. That's it. You don't have to fuss around. Because the mana's, a lot of these decks, 3.5 color Mardu vehicles, right? That's your aggro deck. You're leaning on those ether hubs a little hard.
Oh yeah, I saw a match earlier where the Mardu vehicles player was holding a Spell Queller and an Unlicensed Disintegration in his hand. And
the aggro
this is not really the type of interaction you kind of expect to see out of the same deck.
That's pretty funny. All right, we're back. We're underway now in game number 2. Matt Long is on the play this time. And he's got a nice little start here. This is truly the 1-2 punch that these Mardu Vehicles decks want. Toolcraft Exemplar right into Heart of Kiran, smash you for 3, attack for 7 next turn potentially. And Ian Flynn, rather ominously I must say, has left up 2 black mana. This would lead me to think the Grasp of Darkness is a play, but it also could be a Fatal Push.
Right.
Or nothing, though it's hard to imagine this stuff.
Yeah, I feel like if he had a Fatal Push, he might have wanted to just kill the Toolcraft Exemplar.
Yeah, he might want to save it.
But I did see a Yeheni's Expertise in his hand.
Oh, God. Really?
So if that's the case, then he would like to use the removal spell on the Heart of Kiran. And then right now, the Expertise looks like it could be pretty good.
It really does. And this makes a lot of sense because he wants to not take that much damage, but also, of course, the Heart of Kiran is going to effectively dodge Yeheni's Expertise. And he does have it, but you know what he doesn't have? Land number 4, Paul.
It looks like he has 4 4-drops in his hand.
He does.
And 3 swamps.
Oh, God. This next draw step for him is going to be massive. If he hits a land, he could easily come back in this game. If he whiffs, he is probably dead.
Did he get a swamp sign, too? Because if he did, then he would definitely draw one. Just one signed swamp for the one time.
He has to draw
here.
the signed one, though.
Yeah.
All right. Assuming that he remembered his trigger here, that's 6 damage. Taste it. Fall to 8.
Another creature?
Oh, God. If it's a vehicle, he's probably safe. All right, Good play there from Matt Long. He's going to play Aethersphere Harvester.
Yeah, one thing I noticed when I was playing various control decks against the Mardu Vehicles deck, here we go.
That was not a land. That was a Fatal Push.
Sweepers are decent sometimes, But there are a lot of board states where your opponents just have like a vehicle. And
this
then
is game, by the way, if he has any creature. 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, he doesn't even need a creature. It's just game. But the
3,
fatal
4, 5,
push.
6.
Yeah, the fatal push will save Matt though, or save Ian. Excuse me.
Yeah, it will get rid of the Toolcraft Exemplar. Okay.
Yeah, he gets rid of that, and then he takes 3, 4, 5, 6. No extra land for Matt, so he will survive. But I think the Aethersphere Harvester is probably enough.
Yeah, if Matt Long just has any creature next turn.
Yeah. And this is all assuming that Ian draws a land as well, which he certainly hasn't done yet.
3 mana card. Oh, Murder.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, that was great.
Actually, that's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's right back in this with the land.
Oh.
What happened?
But a Heart of Kirin for Matt means that even
he did hit a land, Blighted Fen. So now he gets to Yeheni's Expertise.
That is kind of like the signed land. That's the 23rd land in his sideboard.
There you go.
Yeah.
So here's Expertise, and this does force Matt Long to come up with 3 power if he's going to kill Ian Flynn. I don't think Ian has a 3-drop or less to play, though. So here we go. This is a big one for Matt. If he has a 3-power creature, he can end the game, and he just found Pia Nalar off the top. And that counts to even things up.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby.
Wow. What an explosive start from the Marta Vehicles deck. I have a sneaking suspicion that this sideboard plan that Ian Flynn has is pretty much only for the draw with the Yeheni's Expertise because he does have a lot of cheap creatures as well. My guess is that back on the play, he's going to board those out and try to be a little more proactive.
I like this matchup, by the way. Not this one. I like the other one.
I feel like you've seen this matchup a few times
already. Yes,
I
have. Yeah. Paul Dean with Copycat Control. All that Sigris has been able to come up with, though, is not enough lands and 1 Whining Constrictor. I mean, the snake's great. We've all accepted that, but
2 lands, not so much.
On his own, he's not quite as good. So Transgress the Mind for Sigris is going to reveal Fumigate Gearhulk. There's a Glimmer of Genius. And 2 Felidar Guardian in the middle of the hand there.
So no matter what happens, Paul Dean will be able to kill the Winding Constrictor.
He's going to step on the snake, no doubt about it.
Oh yeah. Copy that Oath of Chandra that's on the board. It looks like.
Or
is that just in his hand?
Or blink it. It's on board.
Oh, it's on board. Yeah. So he can blink the Oath of Chandra to kill the Winding Constrictor.
Yeah, killed a Grimflayer. It looks like on turn 2. So Siggy's going to try to stem the bleeding as far as the card draw goes, but yikes.
Paul Dean effectively just has 4 mana, 1/4, deal 3 damage to target creature.
Yep, and he's going to do that right now. Sigrist also kind of stemming the bleeding on a potential Gearhulk later on by taking away this Glimmer of Genius because it does exile it.
Right. Yeah, the Gearhulk not actually looking very strong right now. There's just a negate in the graveyard currently.
God, I feel miserable for Sigrist right now.
Yeah, being stuck on 2, not great. Paul finding the 6 land, opting not to even blink the Oath of Chandra here. He's like, I got a 1/4 here. He'll do some work. If you want to use a removal spell here, go ahead. You'll spend your entire turn doing it.
Pure misery for Sigrist. By the way, Paul's just gone land.
Mm-hmm.
Not too bad. This is a free attack for Sigrist.
It's a pretty free block as well for Paul Dean, I think.
I think you'd probably welcome Sigrist using his mana to kill this redundant.
Yeah, definitely.
Felidar Guardian.
And there you have it. I would imagine that Paul would now kill the Constrictor here.
Just blink the Oath of Chandra again?
Right.
You know,
or the Felidar Guardian for style points.
I'm wondering, I know this isn't how you think about it, but at what point does Paul just slam that Gearhulk and start smashing? Like, it is way bigger than anything Sigrist is doing right now. Is there any merit to like doing the no value Gearhulk just to start crushing with it?
Yeah, there is to some extent, but the thing is, Mike Sigrist is currently mana screwed and has still 4 cards in hand. It is not that likely that just a random 5/6 Gearhulk will get the job done. So
you wouldn't assume that would be a way to win the game, is what you're saying.
I would try to get some value off my Gearhulk.
Okay. I mean, I know you would. I knew that before I asked.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anything, you could also just, you could also like ambush a creature, for example. Mm-hmm. That would be getting at least some value out of it.
But I mean, he can't realistically do that. Sigrist knows he has it.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's a Grimflayer now for Sigrist, who did find a land, by the way. It was tapped, but hey.
but it doesn't look like he has Delirium. So Paul Dean can just... Those cats doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, you don't think of them as blockers, but they block.
And the thing is, since Sigris doesn't even have Delirium, Paul can just double block one of the creatures with one attack.
That's really annoying.
And just take the 3 damage.
That is really annoying.
Interesting to see what Mike Sigris goes with here. He knows about the Gear Hulk, so I don't think he wants to play the Lifecrafter's Bestiary.
He doesn't want to get it negated?
Right.
Okay. Well, this is a...
Okay.
This does give him access to Delirium, but like that cannot be the turn he was hoping after finally hitting that 3rd land. How about a 1/1 go?
Paul hasn't really drawn too many ways to get a lot of card advantage. So if this game goes a little bit longer and Mike just starts to draw lands, he might be able to come back from this. What I found a lot of times when I was playing this Jeskai deck is you don't have this one card that gets you massively ahead on cards. There's a lot of 2-for-1s. You have Glimmer of Genius, you have Torrential Gear Hulk, but Sphinx's Revelation, that's like not a card anymore. You don't have a card that just draws you 4 or 5 cards in one turn. So it looks like Mike attacked with the Scrap Heap Scrounger and Paul double blocked.
And Mike said, thanks. Now I have something to do with my mana.
Huh. So now the Scrounger's in the graveyard.
Does have Delirium now, does he not?
He
Artifact,
does.
creature,
I believe that's a traverse
sorcery.
Okay.
Well, isn't it just artifact, creature, sorcery right now? Or
it is. That is a traverse the open wall, correct? Oh yeah, it's still only 3.
It's only 3 though, still.
So yeah. Maybe he kind of was hoping that Paul wouldn't have double blocked there.
I mean, he also has multiple creatures to buy back his Scrounger and just thought maybe it's free, kind of. But
okay, well, here the tracker resolves.
Uh-oh.
And Mike Sigris gets a clue here. Paul doesn't have anything to get back with the Gear Hulk, so he might be tempted to just cast a Fumigate on the following turn.
Wow. He kind of has to deal with that tracker, right?
Like, yeah. The tracker will take over the game by itself.
Yeah.
Ooh.
What
a Glimmer of Genius out of Paul Dean.
Oh, that's a nice little game plan going forward. So is it better for him to just Fumigate now?
Oh.
Cancel that order. All right, this is even better for him. Now he gets to leave up Gear Hulk, cast Glimmer, and then Gear Hulk the Glimmer, assuming that he doesn't have anything in a turn or 2.
Or make it so that Mike Sigris has to add more to the board, play Fumigate, and then cast Gear Hulk Glimmer.
I like his spot.
Yeah. Drawing all of the cards.
That is a lot of value.
I wonder if Paul's going to go for the double block here again. It's a little different situation this time around because Mike Sigris now has 2 counters on the Walking Ballista. So he doesn't necessarily just have to throw away the Walking Ballista or spend all of his mana to put an extra counter on it.
He is going to double block.
Yep.
All right, well, I'm told that our feature match is ready to go. So why don't we head back over there? And then if this one's still going, we'll make sure to come back. I hate it when there's 2 good matches going, but we really do want to see the end of Ian Flynn versus Matt Long. And this one could go very quickly. We've seen their games be pretty quick. So
the epic conclusion. No 1-drop out of Matt Long. No 2-drop out of Ian Flynn. I do see a Drana, though.
How about a Metallic Mimic to kick things off for Ian?
Looks like Ian wants to get a little extra value before casting the Drana.
It's the awkward part, right? It just hits that part of the curve where you're supposed to be adding like a truly aggressive threat, and instead you add a mediocre 2-1, but then the next turn's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, ideally you want to play it on 2, but it looks like Ian drew it this turn.
Right. And that means that he's taken another hit here. Ian, by the way, on a mulligan to 5 this game, he kept a 4-land hand with Grasp of Darkness.
Right.
It is going to make his life very difficult.
Matt adding a lot of pressure to the board, but Ian is going to drop a Drana this turn, and if Matt again, like the first game, if he doesn't have an unlicensed disintegration,
Drana can do serious work.
Right.
Okay.
She's fantastic on defense here, blocks everything, and then if Ian starts drawing a bunch of vampires, can also just make everything huge.
So right now she's a 3/4 flying first strike, and really does ask Matt the question, hey man,
you got it?
Can you kill this? Yep.
And he can.
He's got it. So there's Chandra, Torch of Defiance. She's going to do 4 damage to Drana. And perhaps end the game. This is a major setback for Ian Flynn. He now has effectively the shields down and doesn't really have anything going. He's facing down a Planeswalker and a Superior board, and all he's got is just a little 2/1.
Yeah, so I like Matt's relatively conservative attack here because once you have a Planeswalker on the board, I like to kind of play the game of protect the Planeswalker if I can.
Okay.
So if Matt attacked with everything and maybe kept 1 blocker back, a single removal spell would kill the Chandra. So now Ian is forced to have 2 removal spells if he wants to get rid of the Chandra.
And then Matt can start just generating value from the Chandra, propelling him into the middle part of the game.
Does look like Ian has 2 double Grasp of Darkness, so he will deal with the Chandra, but doesn't have...
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty annoying to use Grasp of Darkness on a 1/1 token that the opponent got for free, but...
But I think having an active Chandra is probably a little bit more annoying.
Okay, well, Matt Long is going to continue to build out his board with a Veteran Motorist.
It's hard to tell what's in Matt's hand. Oh.
How about an Aethersphere Harvester?
Yeah, not bad in this spot. He needs to have Murder. I think that's the only card
that can take care of that Harvester. Well, how about a pair of Swamps? How do you feel about that?
Don't feel great, not going to lie, Marshall.
A little worse than a Murder, perhaps? All right. Yeah, Ian has been behind every stage of the game here, and it does not look like he's going to be able to find a way to get out unless he gets a string of very fortunate top decks, which is, of course, possible.
Right.
Just very unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never happened to me.
Never lucky.
Yeah, so I figure it never happened to anybody else.
Right. That's just how Magic works, though, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's tapping 4 mana. That just cannot be good. It is
Gideon,
always
right?
a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
It's a Gideon or it's a Chandra.
All right. Giddy up? No, Chandra. And is he just going to get aggressive here and just get that Mimic out of the way and start bashing? That's what I do.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it because if Ian top decked like a Kalitas next turn, it would be 4/5.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would just not be able to deal with it.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. He gets to get in for a nice hit of damage here.
I think he's thinking, is there a haste creature in this vampire deck?
Who cares?
How aggressive do I want to be?
Get in for 7.
And Ian actually does have a hasty vampire. Yaheni is a 3-mana 2/2 haster.
It's true. It's just if he plays it in attack Chandra, he loses. So.
Yeah.
Don't think you care. So Matt Long's just going to bash for 7, dropping Ian Flynn down to 4. And that will be game.
Maybe there's a life discrepancy here or something.
There certainly is. It's just 24-4. Oh, man, he actually drew Kalitas off the top, too. It is funny.
But I don't think it's going to do anything.
It does nothing. He's going to play it just because he says, maybe I have Fatal Push, but the Fatal Push doesn't do anything either. All right. Well, the Mono Black Vampires is going to pick up its first loss this round. But it's still 3-1, and that was a good, hard-fought match. And remember, Ian did mulligan to 5 this game, so, that happens.
And game 1 was pretty impressive.
It was.
From Ian.
I agree. The removal spells look fantastic, and the threats are just good enough. All right. All right. Ian Flynn says, sure, you've got lethal upon lethal.
Just kind of playing with this food a little there.
A little bit, but down he goes. So Matt Long with his vehicles deck is going to improve to 4-0, where Ian Flynn, he didn't want to play mirrors all day. He's not going to have that problem.
No.
The real question is just, is he going to be able to keep winning with the deck? And I think there's a decent chance. The deck looks reasonably well positioned. It looks a little light on power level.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, but it looks pretty good otherwise. Again, I think he's leaning on his removal suite, which looks pretty nice, and then just having enough power in the mid to late game to get through. All right, that is going to do it for our live coverage here in round 4. We'll be right back after these messages.